It's great to be here. Thank you to all who have joined us and to our alums for being with us today. My name is Carla Diaz-Sales, and I am from the class of 2005. And I serve as the director of the Affinity Special Interest Group for the Latino Latinx community with the Alumni Admissions Council. And I've loved being a volunteer with the Alumni Admissions Council since I graduated in 2005. So it's really great to be able to give back in this way to Northwestern. We're going to start with some introductions, so I will turn it over and we'll start with Rose, make our way around, and I'll introduce myself last, and then we will jump into some questions. Rose, why don't you kick us off?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rose Hartwig. I'm a 93 grad from the School of Communications. My career has been in the marketing and technology space. I've run global marketing for a number of tech companies. In the first half of my career, the second half, I founded and am leading a marketing consultancy and advisory firm for tech companies from scale-ups to global brands, and recently did a stint at Peloton as their SVP of Global Brand and Product Marketing.
Thank you, Rose. And what school were you in at Northwestern?
Communications.
Communications. Okay, fantastic. All right, we'll head over to Sandra.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Hernandez-Rolnicki. I'm actually a two-time Northwestern graduate. I'll focus comments today on my undergrad experience, where I received my Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from the, at the time, newly named McCormick School of Engineering. It used to only be called the Technology Institute, or Tech. So I graduated there in 1994. And since then, I've had a varied career path where I started as a quality assurance engineer, later quality manager in a consumer electronics company. And from there, moved into various internal audit roles at a few different kinds, starting with a manufacturing firm and then shifting over to a service firm. And from there, actually moved into the regulatory space. I am now, I transitioned to the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, and now I'm with the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. Early in 2020, it was the time for my husband and me to move out west. We had been wanting to come here for a while. Though we're both Chicago natives, it was tough to leave, but we were glad we made the move. But still, Northwestern remains close to my heart, and was very excited to actually see the Northwestern campus here in San Francisco. So thanks so much for having me. Look forward to the conversation today.
Thanks, Sandra. We're going to go over to Daniel next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel Flores. I'm a 2014 grad from the School of Communication and a 2015 grad from the Kellogg School of Management. My career has kind of been all over the place. I started out as a financial analyst for United Airlines. I was then a management consultant at KPMG. I did a big pivot. I did a fellowship, takes people from the private sector to the public. So now I do a lot of project management and data for Chicago Public Schools, and I do music on the side. So really excited to meet everybody and answer any questions y'all might have.
Thanks, Daniel. All right, next we have Dominique.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dominique Mejia. I use she, her, ella pronouns. I graduated in 2017 from Weinberg. I majored in sociology with minors in psychology and Latinx studies. I'm currently a supervising attorney at the National Immigrant Justice Center, and I'm really happy here to talk to all of you.
Thank you. And last, Victor.
Hi, everyone. I guess we saved the youngest for last. Nice to meet everybody. So I'm Victor. I graduated, I guess, just last year, 2023. Studied economics at Weinberg and moved to New York July of last year. I'm working now in real estate private equity at Blackstone here. And so it's been great. There's actually a huge Northwestern presence at my firm as well. So it's great. Excited to be on this panel and answer any questions you guys have. We were told to be really candid, so excited to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you all. And I'm Carla Diaz-Sales. I graduated in 2005, also from Weinberg. It's funny, Dominique, that you were a Latinx minor, because when I was at Northwestern, we didn't have that. And I actually was part of the group that advocated to bring a Latino studies major to Northwestern because we didn't have it. So I kind of had to make my own. I was in Weinberg, political science, international studies, with a focus wherever I could pull together with some Spanish literature, Latin American politics, kind of made my own situation, but officially political science, international studies. So it's always interesting to hear that. And interestingly enough, my career took me from my love and interest in government, found my way into entertainment, spent the last 7 years at Warner Brothers, and I was recently appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom in California to be the deputy director of the California Film Commission. So I now work out of the state film office and run film for the state of California. So it's great to have you all here. And we'll jump right in to our panel questions. So the first question for you all, and feel free, I don't want to call on you, feel free to just popcorn around. Tell us why you chose Northwestern. What drew you to the school? What stood out amongst other schools you applied to? Why and you? Anyone?
I'll jump in. I was a New Yorker. I knew I wanted a school that was near a city that also had, because I was undecided exactly what I wanted to study, I wanted it to have a strong like ability for me to take courses across a range of disciplines. And I was really interested in like psychology and communications, but also journalism. And I knew I didn't want to just apply journalism, but I thought if I could get into a school that had a strong program, I could take classes through that school. And so what appealed to me was, you know, that ability that Northwestern has such strong academic rigor across so many different disciplines. And then also the size of the school felt right for me and near an urban center, which I felt like was really important coming from New York.
Definitely. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. So, I actually came to Northwestern as a Questbridge student, which I actually was just looking up. The deadline is next week. So, if anyone, it's a program designed for first generation low income students. Obviously, an amazing opportunity for me, and Northwestern uniquely is one of the bigger sponsors of the program nationally. So, would definitely advocate for people to take a look. I know it's tough navigating the process as a first generation low income student. So, that was part of my reasoning. And then when I was, so you're basically selected through that process. But when I was selected and discovered I was going to Northwestern in early December, I like was so excited at the idea of being a part of the community. I'm originally from Miami, so we had a few networking sessions down there, and all of the alumni were so welcoming and wanting to be involved in the lives of the people who were joining the school. So you'll definitely feel that's the case should you be accepted. And I can't speak more highly to that process and the admissions team and everybody else for how they were involved.
Definitely. Anyone, I know, Sandra, you said you were Chicago based. Anyone else from Chicago? What was it like going to school so close to home? Why
Yeah, that
Northwestern?
was actually one of the deciding factors. So I first became aware of Northwestern actually because of the Medill School of Journalism. My brother's best friend applied and was accepted there, and so I remember inheriting a Northwestern sweatshirt from my brother that I think somehow got shrunk in the wash. So I remember walking around wearing the Northwestern sweatshirt and thinking, I'm like, oh, I want to know more about this school. This is pretty neat. And so even though it started out that I knew about them because of journalism, I realized that they had a very strong engineering program. And as Rose said, actually across a number of different disciplines. But engineering was where my path was. So I applied to Northwestern and U of I Champaign, which is where my brother went, also an engineer. And just the sheer size and scale of it, there was really a dichotomy there. Did I want to be in a huge school, where you had, huge lecture halls and lots and lots and lots of classmates, or did I want something more the size of Northwestern and the distance from home? Champaign was about a 3-hour drive, whereas Northwestern wasn't close enough to, I did live on campus, I stayed on campus, I wasn't a commuter. So that was, so it allowed me to have the size of the school that I was looking for, as well as the close, but not too close to home. And of course, again, the great academic reputation that Northwestern holds. So those were some of the deciding factors, and really glad to have made that choice.
Amazing. Dominique, how about you?
Yes, I was also a QuestBridge kid, so I was matched as well with Northwestern. But when I was making my ranking, Northwestern was very, very high up there. Northwestern was actually the only school that I toured outside of a state school in Kansas, because that's where my family is currently. So I was really, really, I fell in love with the campus and the size of it, the people, the tour was amazing. A big deciding factor in my ranking and, ultimately deciding to accept the QuestBridge scholarship was just I came from a small town in Kansas, but before that I had been in LA, and so I kind of knew the extremes of city life and and rural life, and so I kind of wanted something in the middle. I wanted to feel like I was part of a community. I wanted to be able to access public transportation and do activities on the weekends, but still feel like I was in a small knit community, whether that was on campus or off campus. And also just the size of the school as well really drew me. The state school that I saw in Kansas, I think, had about like 30,000 undergraduates, and that just was overwhelming. And it just felt like, I was going to get lost there. But immediately, once I stepped on Northwestern campus, even as somebody applying to the school, I felt very welcomed, and I was really glad with my decision.
Amazing. Daniel, anything to add from your perspective? Where are you from?
So I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. My parents brought me there when I was 5 years old. So I think for me, I had this understanding that I had to leave to kind of go to a good school, especially since there weren't a lot of like very high caliber or like schools that offered a lot of financial aid. I was also a QuestBridge recipient. I think the program really highlighted a lot of schools that really said that there's a place for students from my background, and then they also deserve to be there. I really was attracted to the flexibility in Northwestern, the quarter system. I was a little indecisive, so I mean, before graduating, I was in different schools, and I still graduated on time, which is a nice part of the quarter system. But the Latino Studies program was something that really drew me to it. It's been great. I think, not to age myself, but I was the second class of QuestBridge Scholars, so it's really nice to see this whole trajectory of continuing to support first-gen low-income students and seeing that community grow over the years. It's really nice to see and have Northwestern make that a priority.
I love that. 3 QuestBridge students. That's amazing. I mean, well done. We didn't know that about each other. So there we go. Well, I'll just add, I was actually a early decision Northwestern student. I had spent a summer, I did a summer program there, and I remember just falling in love with the campus. Like, being from Los Angeles, I knew I wanted something so completely different from LA. And this is going to sound a little crazy, but this is where, I'm first generation, my parents from different countries. And I had done a summer program at Duke and at Northwestern. And my dad was like, you can't go to the South. Like, don't go to the South. They're not going to understand Latinos. And this was, his way of kind of thinking about things, where he was scared. He was scared for me to go away. He was scared of what that meant. And I really loved that Chicago provided a really nice balance, for my family to like have me feel safe in a community, have me feel like I was in a place where there was going to be others that were like me, that I wasn't an only. And I just loved the school. I loved that you could have a really strong academic experience, but also have this like really amazing student body that was, all about joy. Like, when I toured the campus, there were so many campuses I saw where students just kind of walked around and they like had their eyes down. At Northwestern, like, people like wanted to talk to each other, and I wanted to be a part of a community that like really truly felt like a community. So I knew it was Northwestern from the beginning. Moving on, let's talk about your first year on campus. What were some of the challenges you faced as a Latinx student, or some of the biggest adjustments that you might have had coming from, either your various cities or your various academic backgrounds?
I'm happy to start. I was reflecting on this question earlier, and there weren't a lot of Latinx students, or at least we didn't have the visibility maybe. And again, you can see what year I graduated undergrad, and was hopefully really interested in your experience as well. We're right about the same years. So there wasn't a high degree of visibility. That said, I came from a neighborhood and a high school where there were also not a lot of Latinx students. So that part wasn't different. There wasn't an adjustment in that sense. I was just, in some cases, the first Latinx person that some people have met. So that was fine. I actually took a certain amount of pride in that and tried to maintain some good behavior to leave a positive impression. So that piece wasn't different. The piece where I did struggle was more on the academic side. And it was more because I hadn't built up a good muscle memory around studying and setting time for homework and that. I got by a little too easily in high school in hindsight. So I didn't develop the good practices that I should have. And then once I started, Northwestern's pretty serious. It's pretty rigorous. And I found myself challenged because I just wasn't used to kind of hitting the books and carving out time every day and doing all the things that maybe people that had to work a little bit harder in high school would have built that muscle memory. So in hindsight, I really had to build some good practices and join study groups and reach out to my teaching assistants and professors with questions. And those were ultimately the things that helped me. And I wish I had started on those things day one. So that for me was the biggest challenge during my first year. Along with that, with like everyone else, just getting used to the independence and being away from home and all that. But yeah, I'll leave it there and happy to turn it back over.
I had a similar struggle with the studying component, getting used to the just that high bar of how much reading there was and how much time you had to set aside. I played sports in high school. I played music was part of my life. And so I had all these diverse interests, and I was not prepared for exactly like how much was required to keep up academically. I think that was a struggle, but I think the even bigger challenge for me was being on my own and understanding like how I was going to make things work economically at Northwestern. I was partial scholarship and then loans, which was a really big decision for my family. It was a real stretch. So the loans were my loans. And I remember that I had to go and I actually had to sign the papers. And I just remember like tears coming down, like the responsibility felt so overwhelming. And it was a lot. I felt like I had to all of a sudden shift gears, like, how am I gonna make it? How am I gonna, create a budget of like what it's gonna mean to live here on my own and buy everything on my own. And also other things like insurance. I didn't know anything about like, what if, like when I got sick, like, what do I do? I wasn't prepared for like how to navigate things like that. And I would call home and, my parents could only help to some degree. They weren't sure how to navigate things where I was either. And so I'm sure other people go through that experience as well. That's part of what going away to a university and living on campus is about. But I just felt a bit exacerbated for me. I just felt like such a weight, which was tough because I was excited to start this journey. Northwestern felt like a dream opportunity. And then at the same time, I was like, oh, am I actually gonna make this work? So I just remember that standing out for me, that start of my first year.
Definitely. Victor, Dominique, Daniel, anything you want to add on this question? I know was the program that you were in, did they provide any support for you coming in as a freshman?
Sorry, Victor, if you wanted to go first.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the same thing of what Rose and Sandra said, especially about kind of coming. I thought I was really smart, and I am really smart, but there's a different level of academic rigor that you do when you come to Northwestern. And I also struggled a lot with trying to figure out how do I study. I just remember in high school, I would just the night before I would memorize, and then the next morning I would just throw everything on a paper and I'd be done. So that was difficult. But I guess like something I agree with everything else that was already said, but another aspect that I found very challenging was also I was the first person in my entire family to go to college or to university. And so a lot of my struggles were also, I don't even know how to explain what I'm struggling with. I don't even know how to tell you why I'm upset about, a situation with my roommate or a situation with financial aid. Like I was supposed to, I could ask for help, right? Or I could have asked for help, but also it was kind of those like family dynamics where it's, you don't want to burden them, you don't know how to bring this up. And I don't think it's unique to being Latinx, but it was definitely something that I struggled with in that first year, just kind of being like feeling overwhelmed. There are supports, but I don't know how to ask for help. And the later on in my career at Northwestern, I was um, more encouraged to do so and felt more comfortable doing so. But doing that first, you know, ask for help is really hard. And so I really encourage everybody, wherever you end up going, to reach out to people to help you. If it's not coming from family or friends, there's a lot of resources on campus.
And did you, in that first year, did you end up finding those resources?
So yes, thank you for the reminder. Actually, really, my really good resource was actually my mentor. So we had well, at Welcome, you get assigned an upperclassman who is kind of your mentor for your little group. They take you around for Welcome Week, and then they're supposed to stay connected with you. And it happened to be that I had a mentor who was also Latinx, and she was also low income. And so there were a lot of tips and tricks that once I had built up the courage to ask for help, she very much guided me to a lot of resources. And also a lot of other people that I started to meet within my residential community, within my major, Weinberg, professors as well. I, started taking a lot of Latinx studies professors, and some of them came from similar backgrounds. And so, just feeling a little bit more comfortable to maybe go and ask them for help or to ask them for advice was also an avenue for me.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question, and maybe Victor, Daniel, we can start with you all on this one. Let's talk about belonging. Like, how did Northwestern instill in you a sense of belonging? Were there professors, classmates, student organizations? Like, how did you find your place at Northwestern? And tell us a little bit about that journey as a Latinx student on campus.
Yeah, I think it's a big question, and sort of echoes the same sentiment of the last question, which is just like, as you go into school, you're overwhelmed. You don't really know what's going on. You're like only 18 years old. You're not supposed to know what's going on either. I think compared to a lot of the other programs I've heard about from other recent graduates, our freshman Wildcat Welcome program is like one of a kind and does a really good job of connecting like-minded people, but also people from very different backgrounds. And so that week where it's really just freshmen on campus, you definitely get that feeling of integration. I think a lot of the faculty leans in and makes it a very special experience for the students on campus. And then I also think that just like in general, being in Evanston, it's like quite a quintessential college town. It's not like I can imagine like going to school, not to like rank on any other schools, but like going to like NYU or something else where like you're in the middle of a city, it's difficult versus like at Northwestern, you're in this small town where everybody is just kind of like excited for the students to be back. You definitely feel like you're a part of something, and that's quite special, and you don't necessarily get that everywhere. So, while also having the counterpart of being so close to Chicago, which is also has heavy pride on Northwestern. So I think it's actually something that like I was worried about going in for sure, but surprisingly was not a big issue. I think Northwestern does a good job solving that. So
Amazing. Daniel, how about you?
Absolutely. I think for me, it was a bit of a radical shift moving from where I grew up to Northwestern. I would say, like I've lived in a very homogenous place. Everyone's entirely, Latino, Mexican American. My high school actually had 4 Daniel Floreses. So going from that environment to being like the only Latino in a lot of my programs back then, it was a pretty stark difference. And I think a lot back then there wasn't as much resources to support first gen low income students. So I think really just trying to find individuals that I, resonated with, that understood me, helped a lot. I think what a really great part about Northwestern is like the student driven culture. I feel like there's a lot of people that are passionate about a lot of things, even though I didn't necessarily always fully have, like interests or backgrounds that align with people. I think their ambition and their want to kind of enact change was really something that drew me and created a lot of relationships. So during my time there, Northwestern really is supportive of people that have an idea, want to create a community or a student group. So I actually started 2 student groups during my time there. And that was my way of finding my own kind of space and creating kind of these mediums where I can find individuals from my background. One was a music ensemble, and the other one was a student group, like first gen low income student group. So I think, you know, with Northwestern, it definitely sets you up and it gives you an environment to kind of like meet other individuals. But I think on a deeper level, I really wanted that support of people that I felt like could resonate the most with me. So being able to kind of create my own community was something really helpful for me, helping my experience be that much better.
And I just have to ask, because this is Victor, I'm like, you have to tell me, is Alianza still around?
I think last time, yeah, when I was there, I don't know if you were like a part of it or if one of you guys started it, but yeah, it was a lot of the you'd be surprised like how much people are like willing, especially the like junior, senior student body is willing to just like upkeep traditions, make sure things are still running smoothly as alumni go on. I know one of the my members here at Blackstone, a current colleague, he was involved in a program that, you know, had been around on campus for 10, 15 years while he was there, and it still was going on. And he was so surprised to hear about it. And even our older alumni, I know one that just joined the board, he's, you know, still involved with everything that happens on campus. So like, unlike other schools where like you've gotten so big and there's so much that's gone on, Northwestern's had a really, really strong trajectory these past few years. And so people are willing to like give back, as you are seeing with this panel, where I'm the youngest. But so we're really grateful for our alumni.
No, I appreciate it. Next year is a reunion year for me, and I've chaired my reunion the last, like every reunion we've had. So it's 20 years next year. So it's been a little bit since I've been back on campus, but you know, I remember Alianza, at least at the time, was truly our Latino organization on campus. And it was a place where, you know, Daniel, you talked about, you know, being able to find community within community, but even just having a space, like we had the multicultural house and we had a physical place on campus where, you know, we had an advisor and you could drop in and there were always Latino students there, and you just kind of felt like a little, you know, piece of home away from home when you felt homesick. And I love to hear, you know, the evolution of that, because obviously, like Sandra Rose, I don't know, it's like, you know, the school has evolved and changed so much that it's always so beautiful to see like what the next generations are able to do with what was such an important experience of like even just having a place on campus that you can go at any time and be around others that were just like you. So it's nice to kind of hear of the preservation of of some of that history. I want to pause our questions and kind of switch to some of these other questions that we're getting in the chat, because I think they're relevant to the conversation. So Jonathan asked, what type of clubs or events bring Latinx students together? So on this topic of students in place, like, are there any clubs or events that come to mind that are, you know, really gathering places for our community that you can remember?
I was going to mention, again, maybe not specific to the Latinx community, but I want to double down on what Victor said about the Wildcat Welcome. That is excellent. I think that just is the way that Northwestern just opens its arms to you and, you know, brings you into the family. And that's also where I first forged you know, really a fellowship, a family kinship with my residence hall. And so I think even pre some of these Latinx group, which I'm just so thrilled to hear that they've flourished and survived all these years since graduating. But that's, you know, that's a place where you find belonging and you find your friends. I always tell the story. It's my second day at Northwestern. I met 2 of my very best friends who, all these years later, they are my people. They are like the first 2 when I have news to share or things going on in my life. They are right at the top of the list of the people that I want to reach out and share with. So your residence hall as well is a really important place.
Absolutely. I mean, on that note, like I remember we even had this, like, you know, when you're a freshman and you're coming in and you don't know where everything is, like you kind of stick to the people that are in your dorm, right? Because that's who you live next to. And I actually just saw my freshman year roommate last week. She lives here in Los Angeles. Coincidentally, she was from a tiny, tiny little town in Michigan. And it's like to think all these years later, we get together all the time and still have that connection, even though we were super different from one another, bonded in that first week of activities. Other thoughts on any gathering places or organizations or really events on campus that really like helped you feel a sense of community while you were there?
For me, I remember club sports was big for me. I joined the club basketball team because I had played in high school, and that felt like a great community. Just to meet other people, shared interests, work study. I did work study through the university, and I felt like I really bonded with a lot of students in talking about like types of opportunities and jobs and where could you make the most money while studying, or like somehow, maximize the time that you had. And then I think what I loved about Northwestern was it felt like there was a very involved student body in the community, or like with a service orientation, which was also really important to me. So I did a lot of volunteer work. I think I did work with Special Olympics. I did work with the Red Cross of Chicago. I did work with mentoring students in the local schools. And I found that that was also, through shared interests and through community oriented activities, service oriented activities, that I found a lot of support in the student body, and met a lot of made a lot of friends with lasting friendships.
Yeah, I just add on to, we briefly mentioned the MCC, but it's the Multicultural Center. And if you walk in there, you're going to find a lot of people, socializing, some people upstairs studying. It's also home to a lot of offices for a lot of orgs on campus. And so to highlight a few, just like Baile Folclórico, Maria Chianyu, which actually Daniel started when he was at Northwestern. Alianza, Questbridge also has an office at least when I was there, was in Norris. And so I'd say that there's constantly movement in the MCC house. There's also always activities or things going on. I will also say when it's Latinx or Hispanic Heritage Month, there's a lot of organizations, activities and events happening. One of my favorites was actually a festival that was put on where it would be kind of like a dinner event and then a performance and a lot of socializing for people who identify as Latinx or Hispanic, but also open to the rest of the community. It was just an opportunity to share our culture and to share like our identities and also our food and our music. And so I really enjoyed that event every year. And then there's just constant kind of just like finding pockets of people with throughout Northwestern, like some have mentioned, within your residential hall, in classes, doing intramural sports. I was the president of the residential college, and I put on some of the intramural sports, and that was also really fun to do, to have teams that you could sign up with all your friends and then, start tournaments. So there's a lot of opportunities and things, but just even spaces where you could find other Latinx students. I would say like the MCC, the Black House, Norris, were all great just places to find people. And some of the bigger residential halls also would just have people in the lounge, hanging out. So there's lots of spaces.
I love that. Anyone have anything else to add on this before we move on to the next question?
I can do one. I think like as alumni, we've really worked to kind of hold space and create our own newer traditions within the kind of campus culture. Every year we have a big Latino homecoming. So, when all the alumni come back, we've made it bigger every year. So we have a taquero, so have some alumni cooking food for students. Last year we had a lot of performances. We had the folklorico, we had the mariachi, we had other student performer groups, we had a banda. So it was really cool to see, like a space on campus dedicated for students that look like us, with music that, sounded like things that we like to hear. I think something that's been going on for a while now is the Latinx congratulatory, so the Latino graduation, a ceremony that's both in English and Spanish, so all our families can understand. It's always streamed live, so families outside of the United States can see it, even outside of Evanston. So seeing that grow every year has been really great, and I think just seeing spaces for Latino traditions has been really nice to see over the years for sure.
It's funny you say that, Daniel, because I remember, homecoming with our alums was always a thing. And we would, at the time when I was there, Alianza, we would create a float, and the floats were literally like, we'd have to rent a giant trailer, and they would come down Sheridan Road. And so we would all get together for like the week leading up to homecoming and build whatever this float was going to be with like wood and, and then our alumni would come back and we'd have this celebration, and they'd tell us about life after college and that it was going to be okay and give us hope. And so I love to hear again how that's been such a growing part, and continues to be. I think there's an interesting question here on ways that Northwestern gives back to the Latino community. And curious, in your experiences, what ways you saw Northwestern really give back to the Latino community.
So I don't know if it was like an institution question or if like Northwestern, the people within at Northwestern, but something that Northwestern really pushes is a lot of community service and a lot of community engagement. So I did a lot while at Northwestern of like tutoring and presentations. I knew I was going into the legal field, so I was doing a lot of like talks and discussions with high schoolers, middle schoolers about what is the legal field, know your rights presentations, just kind of general information about the legal community. And I also did a lot of actually going to high schools to present about, applying for scholarships and admissions and what Northwestern was like. I also helped with drives for getting backpacks for low-income students that were in elementary school supplies. So very much was part of our kind of give back, during Wildcat Welcome Week, there's also like a volunteering event that is usually held towards the end of the week. And that's supposed to be encouraging for all of our students to continue doing so. So there's also the big fundraising event called Dance Marathon. Sorry, I blinked for a second. I did it one time and I was like, no, never again, but supported all my friends who did. The Dance Marathon, so where they raise millions of dollars every year and give back. There's a portion of it goes to Evanston, but every year they also select some kind of community organization or nonprofit that they give the money to. So also a lot of some of the Alianza or Questbridge or other organizations on campus, student-led groups will also do a lot of volunteer work. They'll organize their groups and go down to Chicago or somewhere else to kind of also give back.
Love that. Thank you. Moving on, another question from the group. What do you think think back to when you were applicants? What do you think really qualified you to be admitted as a Northwestern student? So what did you, looking back, what did you kind of feel set you apart when you were applicants to Northwestern?
Yeah, I know this is I'll take one for the team on this one. It's a tough question. And obviously top of mind for everybody who's in the midst of recruiting. But I think I would say like Northwestern, I actually worked on the endowment for a little while at my school, and for Kellogg, I actually worked on like the marketing team for a little while. So I understand a little bit about how admissions works at our school. Definitely not an expert on it, but what I would say is it's a very holistic process. Like the best way you can showcase yourself is by putting a lot of passion into your application. And especially the way I think for us, like you're surprised by how many of the admissions readers will actually take the time to like go through your essay, take the time to read it, really like take it in, understand what kind of candidate you are with that essay, with your supplementals, and as a component in your larger sort of experiences that showcase on your Common App or resume or whatever they're doing nowadays. But I think the best thing you can do is just like lean into your application, like spend the time making sure this actually like reflects who you are, because that genuine aspect to your application definitely shines through to the panelists. And so yeah, I think the best thing you can do is lean in, just take your time, don't rush anything, and be who you are, and it'll come through in the application.
Thanks, Victor. Next
Yeah.
question. Oh,
I'm
anyone?
sorry, I was just going to double. I was just going to double down
Yes.
on what Victor said and encourage everybody, lean into your authenticity, lean into your intersectionality, lean into those things that make you you. And I couldn't have said it better. You know, it's going to shine through in your application, and that's what's going to set you apart.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. And I think those of us who've been volunteers with the Alumni Admissions Council for years have spoken to a lot of students over the years, and it is truly those stories of, you know, it's like they're your personal stories. It's who you are. And that is a great piece of advice. There's a great question here that I want to throw out to the group next. How does Northwestern help Latinx students navigate the work industry during and after graduating? So as alum, during and after graduating, any thoughts on that?
I can go. So I wouldn't say it's like specific to Latinx students. I actually think Northwestern makes this a focus to all students, but there was a lot of help, especially my senior year, and looking for my post-graduation plans. At that point in my career, I didn't know if I actually wanted to go to law school. I was kind of tired of studying, and I wanted a break, and so I ended up becoming a paralegal for some time and then going back to law school. But the reason that I found the National Immigrant Justice Center was actually through a site visit sponsored by Northwestern. And so it was, I think, sponsored. I think it might have been like a legal look at legal interest minded students who wanted to kind of see what the legal field could look like. And we went to a number of different nonprofits where there are people who have JDs and people who do not have JDs, but they're still kind of using the law in a way that maybe isn't as traditional as like in a courtroom setting. And NIJC was the last stop on that site visit. And so that was really helpful to kind of like open my mind to, you know, if I don't want to be in a courtroom, you know, what other ways could I use my JD, or what other ways could I help my community and apply, you know, those skills. I also did Chicago Field Studies, which I highly recommend. It's a program where you do you essentially work for 4 out of 5 days of a week somewhere downtown or in Evanston. And you get that firsthand experience. It really helped me kind of like narrow down what I wanted to be doing. I interned at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and I found that very enlightening. I knew I didn't want to be in that specific type of field, like policy work, but it very much opened my eyes to the rest of the like immigrant and refugee community in Chicago, for example. But it also gave me kind of like a break from studying, and it really much was like, this is the type of work I want to be doing, hands-on stuff, and this is what I want to be doing after I graduate. And then there's just a one class component for one of those days. And so I found that very helpful. I definitely saw that as a boost on my resume when I was applying to jobs. They liked seeing that I not only had summer experience, but an extended experience working at other places as well. So every summer as well, when I was looking for internships, Northwestern was really helpful looking over my resume, helping with interviews, you know, kind of prepping me for those experiences. And also kind of making those connections. I had worked at the Court Appointed Special Advocates for Cook County, and I knew that I wanted to work there because I wanted to work with children and I wanted to work on the court advocacy side. And I think one of my advisors actually reached out to somebody. She didn't reach out to the person who was kind of going to interview me, but she did reach out to see, you know, are they having any open positions? Like, are they still accepting applications? And I was able to get mine in and to be able to get that experience. So the Career Advancement Center is amazing at Northwestern. I highly recommend people reaching out when they're there.
No, thank you. Anyone else want to add something to this question?
I might add just 2 other aspects. I think Northwestern was a huge supporter of my desire to study abroad. And they, you know, worked with me to make that happen. I ended up studying at the University of Seville in Spain at their journalism school, which was amazing, where all the coursework was in Spanish, everything. And they were able to give me full credit back, which was amazing, like to work through and have that be part of and accepted, and make me feel like I wouldn't miss out on the job search process and like internships, et cetera. So I thought that was great. And then I also thought, like coming up on graduation, thought I was going to go in one direction for my career, and then Teach for America presented on campus. It was very early in that initiative, and it just like spoke to me. And I felt like I needed to go back to the Bronx and teach for 2 years, which is where I grew up. And I was worried, like if I did that, what would happen? And would I completely derail my chances of having a different career? And I got a lot of support from the university, like as far as like making that decision, and then saying they would work with me after the 2-year commitment to Teach for America, the strength of the alumni network, et cetera. And that did end up playing out and being a real positive, and I'm really grateful.
I was definitely on that note where I was like, I think I was surprised throughout my Northwestern career how many, whether it was a teacher or someone who got to know me and would make recommendations on ways to develop like hands-on learning to develop some of those skills that then become so relevant once you leave Northwestern. It really kind of felt like this like safe space to try new things, try new majors, potentially try on different careers. Like Dominique was saying, I too did the early version of a field study in marketing and was like, this is not for me. And I'm so glad I did, because, didn't waste my time there, but I got to try that in such a safe space. So when you look back at your Northwestern experience, what kind of mentors or professors or folks that wrap themselves around you can you remember that really offered you guidance during your time at Northwestern? Victor, how about you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, one thing that I was going to add to the last one, but is also relevant to this, is we have this program at Northwestern called Chicago Field Studies. And so it lets you get the opportunity to do essentially like an internship or an externship during your school year. And because we're a quarter system, you essentially get the time to go and get this experience that's completely different from school, adds to your resume, prepares you to shine as an applicant for whatever you're looking for your summer or for your full-time recruitment. But you still are able to go through the rest of the year and do your coursework and like go through a full course load. And like Rose was saying, because of the quarter system, you can also leverage that amount of time, taking 12 classes a year versus 10 at a normal semester school system, to go and have the time to study abroad. But in terms of mentorship, I think going back to that point where like Northwestern, because it's done so well over the past few years, I think it's led to a situation where juniors and seniors at Northwestern, but also recent graduates, or at least in our case, what I've seen is that they're very much willing to just take the call and give advice. So I think that's what you're buying into when you apply to Northwestern, when you're accepted, is having that level and that willingness to go back and give that back to your community. It's why I was like, I want to do this panel as well, because I've met so many people from Northwestern who have given back to me. So, and I look at other alumni relationships at other schools, and I think it's a bit more cut and dry versus there really is more passion when it comes to our student body and whatever. I'm obviously biased, but I would say I think that mentorship really exists, and it's a function of like how well the school has done recently.
Absolutely. Daniel, I saw you unmuting yourself. Call on you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, it takes a village to kind of really get everyone through the Northwestern quarter system. And that was the case for me for sure. I think a really cool program that I took advantage of, there was like a Kellogg Hispanic MBA mentorship program. So I was paired up with an individual, and he was great. I think we had similar backgrounds, and yeah, I think at the time it was just, he kind of gave me the cut and dry, it's just like, you're doing this. I think you need to focus on that. And I think I think so much pressure was put on myself to kind of like not admit I needed some help or didn't want to admit certain things to certain people that I was struggling with. So having someone that was kind of like a third party to kind of mentor you through it was super helpful. I think even now it's never too early to get a mentor, even if you're just applying to college. I think there's a lot of different ways you can benefit from people that have been through it and are willing to help more than anything. That same mentor, I was working at United Airlines, and consequently he started a job there too. So it was really cool just to kind of see the full circle and just seeing these continuous relationships and people from Northwestern continuing to invest into the next generation and paying things forward.
Absolutely. No, it's great to see that that is an experience that has woven through so many of our own personal experiences, because it really seems core to who our student body is. Just kind of looking here at the questions we have left, and I want to make sure we touch on all of them. Beyond freshman year, are there any other activities by Northwestern designed to strengthen the community? And I know I can think of many. I know, Dominique, you talked about dance marathon, but there's so many community like moments where we come together. Any that you want to call out in like a quick, explanation of what it is?
Yeah, so I know we focused a lot on Welcome Week, but it is actually still open for upperclassmen as well. A lot of upperclassmen are actually what kind of organize and put it on, and a lot of like the breakout sessions are put on by upperclassmen, kind of continuing to kind of give back, as we've mentioned, and to make those connections. A big one is actually the residential colleges. So, well, actually the residential colleges back when I was still there. I don't know if they're still called that. I know that they were doing kind of like a redesign of them, but the housings, housing centers. I'm so sorry. I'm like in a work brain right now. Housing does a lot of actually community events. So each each building has actually like a leadership board, student-led leadership board that is elected and that put on events on a weekly to bi-weekly basis. And so at least when I was there, at least freshmen to sophomore to juniors, even seniors were still living on campus. Could take part. It's part of the fees for living on campus, and so food would be provided, events would be planned, outings would be done. They would bring in keynote like speakers to talk to us, and it was just like a constant kind of like, if you are introverted and the farthest that you want to leave after coming home from classes, especially in the winter, is just downstairs. Perfect. You still have a way of connecting with other people within your building as well. Within the housing system, there's also events put on by different residentials. I don't know why I can't think of the name, but residential colleges, residential halls, there we go. That will actually compete. So like intramurals is like we have there were about 9 different events, different sports that somebody could participate in. And at the end of the year, there's a big field day where, each housing hall would have a team, and you'd go root for your team, even if you didn't want to participate, or you're not sports inclined, but wanted to go support your team. That was also a really fun event that I always look forward to every May. Dance marathon, same thing. Even if you weren't one of the participants, you would go out to go like visit with your friends, kind of distract them from the pain for a little bit, and help them raise money. And then just like the student union, the student center, Norris, just like places where people kind of were together. Northwestern was always willing to give out money to orgs to put on events, to host and feed people. Because as a college student, the thing that will lead you to go to anywhere is food. And so I just like, there was always something going on. Our theater, our communications, and fine arts programs are amazing. And so you could always go to a discounted theater play, musical, rehearse. No, sorry, I'm like blinking on it. You could do a lot of activities, and that was all encouraged by Northwestern. It very much was like, you should study, but that shouldn't be your entire life, because we need to have balance. And so yeah, there's a lot of things to get us together.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to double down on like some of the performance art and what a way to unify. And you never know who you're going to see. There's so many stars that have come out of Northwestern that what an opportunity to see them before they were. There's a few names I could drop, but I won't. Yeah, so I highly encourage, even though engineering student, all my classes up north, make your way to another part of campus, get to see some of those performances, get to go to the art gallery, go walk around the School of Music, take it all in, and you will find a welcoming community in every one of those places.
Anyone have anything else to add on this one? No?
Yeah, my quick thing is just you're obviously at like a Big Ten school, you have a ton of sports programs. I think going to like the first football game every single season is like very fun, and we're getting a new stadium. So You don't get that at a lot of like really, really great schools like ours, in terms of like how much care there is put into our athletic system as well as everything else. So definitely a plus.
Love it. Okay, we're coming up on time, but there's two questions that I think would be really great for all of us to just kind of go with quick answers. So we're going to do one question, then we'll do the second one. The first one is, what would you recommend as the best that Northwestern can offer? So what was the best that Northwestern can offer? And interpret that question however you see fit. But in one or two word answers so we can just kind of get everyone in. And we will start with Rose.
Flexibility to explore many different courses and extracurriculars.
All right. Daniel.
I just think the intersectionality of everyone's just kind of personality. It's such a student-driven culture. Everyone's just amazing at so many different things, and very passionate about everything they're doing. Just inspires you to go that much harder.
Sandra.
I think professors and teaching assistants who truly care about every single student and want nothing more than every single person's success. It's not a weed out school. No one's trying to push you out the door. They're keeping you in.
Victor.
I would just say a very unique one here, just like the campus, absolutely beautiful. You're on the lake. It's beautiful during the summer. Like it looks like Harry Potter during the winter. So it's awesome.
Dominique.
I may be cheating, but I would say it's the full college experience. I think you get a variety of, you can explore any interest that you want. You can be involved as much as you want. You want to, be by yourself and just stay on the Lakeville. You want to go to college, to the college games, football games, go to see performances. I think Northwestern has everything to offer academically, and that is competitive and that you will be able to experience anywhere else, but also on the same side, you still get like all that extracurricular activities to enjoy being this age and enjoy kind of exploring what it means to be a young adult. Yeah.
And just kind of dovetailing on some of these, a question just came in that I think is relevant on, being able to combine things. And Northwestern was always so great at like letting you kind of take multiple interests and create one major. Like I remember one of my close friends was biomedical engineering and piano performance, two things that could have, nothing to do with each other. And Northwestern helped her figure out how to make it work. And so their ability to really just hold your hand through kind of coming into your own and being able to not have to choose only one part of yourself, I think was truly unique. Okay, last question for everyone. What aspect of Northwestern's campus made you feel at home as a Latino, Latinx, Latine person? Take a minute and then feel free to jump right in.
I can go. I'd say the people. So I think, not all of I have a core group of best friends that I've also have been friends with for 10 plus years now, and they remain being that core group that I had. Not everybody in that group is Latinx or, so that group of people that I met that freshman year, sophomore year of college have stuck with me. And it was a struggle in some ways of becoming low income, being a low income first gen student coming into a campus where you feel overwhelmed, and just with being a college student, right? But having that core group of people who supported me, helped me, distracted me, was what made me kind of set my feet on the ground and really helped me get through everything. So.
Right. Sandra.
Yeah, I was just gonna also just repeat, like, but it's a football game, it's just that fellowship that, again, it's not specific to Latinx, but just, that's just one example. The football games are just one example of ways that the campus as a student body, as a like I said, a big family that is there and to protect and to gather and to comfort and to support and challenge, all of the things that a good family does.
And those the football games take you through the highs and lows of family too. So.
Don't get me started. They were winless my freshman year. 0. We won 0 football games my freshman year. I didn't see a victory till my like halfway through the football season of my sophomore year.
Love it. Daniel, how about you?
For me, definitely the Multicultural Center. I worked there. I was a Hispanic Latino Student Affairs intern. For mariachi, that's where we would rehearse. I spent a lot of time there. So I think just being, welcome there, being there, being with friends so much, just having that kind of central space. We can always fall asleep, study, mess around. It was just it felt really like a community home away from home. So that's definitely always felt at home and belonging there.
Absolutely. Rose.
I'll have to admit, I felt far from home when I arrived on campus, but I think what helped me was the friends I met at in my dorm. I'm still friends with them to date, like forming these close-knit friendships, so people can support you through challenging times. And I do encourage, I think I didn't seek out enough resources early on, and I just highly encourage, it's a hard thing to do. But I just wanted to say, like, there is so much support, and I didn't discover it until later because I didn't know to ask, and I didn't think there, I didn't know how to navigate. And so I just encourage everyone. It sounds like there's so much more support on campus right now, which sounds amazing. So I'm excited to hear that. And yeah, and just to stay involved as an active alum, helping others, through graduation and beyond.
Victor.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's really the faculty. I know, like, I remember going to office hours for the econ department, which is in Kellogg, by the way, which is like a stunning building, and just sitting down for a little while and just catching up with my professor about my personal life. He didn't know I was a Questbridge student, but he actually cared to listen to my whole story. And while, sometimes people have different levels of education going into college, you definitely go through a learning curve, but there's an emphasis on making sure that everyone has the same resources. So Northwestern especially has that top of mind, which is great to see. And like the outside of that, the like supporting faculty admissions, they really care. Obviously, like it's 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, and like Carla, thank you so much for helping put on this panel. And I know Liz has been answering a ton of questions. Like, thank you guys so much. So that's all around. Everyone at Northwestern has that level of passion for it. So it's great.
Absolutely. And just to kind of bring us home, for me, it was like truly the connections I made on campus from, the non-Latino students to the Latino students. I feel like I discovered a really different part of my Latinidad while I was on campus, connecting with people that were so different from me and also so similar to me. And it really kind of puts you in a position. I think what makes college so unique is that you are both defending who you are and at the same time pushing who you are outside of your comfort zone through experiences and conversations and questions. And I loved that so much because you come out a different person because of the connections that you make while you're there. And just to kind of end on a really brief story, 2 weeks ago, I got a Instagram message from a girl who was 2 years older than me at Northwestern, who we used to volunteer together with Alianza. We were, she was the president, then I was president 2 years after her, and I haven't heard from her in over 20 years. She's like, hey, I'm in LA, let's have dinner. And my answer was absolutely yes. Because even after 20 years, like these are the connections that carry you and your experience, and just kind of, grounded you while you're there. And I do think that that really speaks to the incredible community that we had while we were all Wildcats. So with that, a big thank you to you all for your time, for joining us, for your candor. And I really hope to all the students that chimed in that you were able to learn something from all of our amazing alumni and know that, you too can be a part of this experience if you choose to come to Northwestern. Best of luck to you in your admissions journey. And thank you all again.
Go Cats.
Go Cats. Yes.
Thank you all so much. Our students are leaving the room, but they can hear me. Thank you. We're so grateful for your time. And I hope we'll cross paths in person, but this was really special. So thank you. I love seeing all these hearts go. I will end the webinar now. Students, come find us if you have questions at ug-admission@northwestern.edu. Thank you again to our alums. We really appreciate it. Really beautiful. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.